We, for whatever reason, this week, like,
Oh, because we have the thing at 10:30, right?
yeah, so we have, today we have the
Voting.
election,
Right.
election, yep. And tomorrow we would, I'm just gonna say this again, tomorrow we'll be on the House floor at 9:30. So normally we wouldn't be in the committee at all, but I'm asking that everybody come in at 9 so we can
Sure.
try to move forward on the universal school meals bill. So we're not sure where we will be at the end of today, but we will want to try and have that conversation, keep it going tomorrow. Yes.
It may be awful driving too, so I don't know.
Oh, right.
I could Zoom possibly.
Yes, if you need to. Yes, I saw that it might be treacherous.
Later tonight, early in the morning.
At least until, I can't remember what time.
They bumped it up. Now it's like
1 AM or 1 PM?
1 PM tomorrow.
1 PM, okay.
Yeah, I think it starts
All the way
one.
to 7.
Oh, all the way to 7. Oh,
Okay.
okay, well.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started then. So we've got this morning, Carrie Soller from the food bank is here. I think we met Carrie 3 weeks ago. I can't remember exactly the timing.
It was January.
Okay, it was, yeah. So
Time's flying.
come on back up to the table.
Yeah, thanks.
And we're gonna get an update this morning on SNAP Awareness Day. So I
Yeah.
think we're gonna get an update on the pending changes to SNAP program and
Yeah.
some other things.
Yes, kind of broad changes to the SNAP program. So I also have some handouts and I thought I grabbed enough for everyone, but not quite enough. So you can sort of pass those around and take them or share them or do your best. So hi, thank you for having me. My name is Carrie Staler. I live in Linden and I'm the Government and Public Affairs Officer for the Vermont Food Bank. I just want to thank all of you for having us here today. I'm the first of 4 folks who are going to testify before you. So I'll try and keep my testimony short and high level. But we're here to talk to you for SNAP Awareness Day, and SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's a federal USDA program. And here in Vermont, we call it 3 Squares Vermont. So you may have also heard it by that name. It's a food program that essentially helps people buy the food they need and want at the retail food location that they want to shop at. So it's a really equitable program that not only helps people purchase food at stores like large grocery stores, but also at country stores, farmers markets, and farms. People who use the program must qualify, so they have to earn 185% of the federal poverty level or less in order to qualify for the program. There are some nuances to that. I won't get into those. That is essentially $26,973 for a single person household or $55,500 for a 4-person household. So it is not a lot of money. Benefits are issued on a scaled eligibility. So those making the least are eligible for the most benefits. Those making closer to that 185% cap are eligible for a lesser benefit. For a single person household, the maximum monthly benefit is $281 to purchase food at a food retailer, and there are qualifying food items. So it's not that you can go in and purchase anything. And the minimum benefit is just $23 per month.
Sorry.
Right now, that's what, 3 cartons of eggs, maybe? So during the pandemic, the federal government did some really amazing things to help mitigate the impact of pandemic job losses, school closures, and industry disruptions. One of those changes was that they implemented what was called the SNAP Emergency Allotment. That means that during the pandemic, all households, regardless of their eligibility level, regardless of how much benefit they were originally eligible for, was able to receive the monthly maximum for their household size. So every single person household has been receiving their regular benefit as one payment at the beginning of the month, and then a special mid-month emergency allotment that brings their monthly benefit level up to that $281. This has been going on for the past 2.5 years. People have really been using these benefits to their fullest each month. And it's allowed people to not only feed their families, but to purchase the food they want and need. And you'll hear later from some of our partners that people are spending those funds at farmers markets. They're spending that money at their local farm stands who take EBT cards. So it's really had an impact agriculturally in Vermont. And that's the sort of piece I want to underscore for this committee. The change that's coming is that maximum allotment benefit is going away. The last benefit will be doled out in the middle of March. And after that, everyone on this program will go back down to their eligible level. That's going to impact 72,000 people in Vermont. It's about 10% of our population, 41,000 households, and all of the food retailers that provide food for those people. That overall benefit has been bringing in about $6.5 million per month in that maximum emergency allotment benefit alone for people to spend, and people have been spending it. Additionally, people's benefits are about $11 to $12 million a month. So that extra benefit has been a really huge bump compared to the standard monthly number. The majority of households using that program are going to lose between $100 and $500 per month in their grocery budget, essentially, that they have in these cards to spend, with some households losing up to $2,000 a month for large households who are closer to that 185% limit. So it's gonna be something that people in all of your communities see and experience. And so we're here to help give you information so that if they ask you questions, or if come April those changes happen and there's concern from folks that you serve, one of those handouts has the emergency allotment information on one side and information about how to sign up for Three Squares Vermont on the other, because this program is not going away. It's just the maximum allotment piece. So people are still eligible to join SNAP and to get benefits. And there are likely people in your communities who are eligible for this program who are not signed up for it. So I just want to underscore that and encourage you to have that information available should constituents reach out about what they can do. The other piece I want to just sort of underline for you is that even with this maximum benefit in place, we were seeing 2 in 5 people in Vermont experiencing food insecurity. Now that this benefit is going away, some of our lowest income neighbors are going to be the ones who are most strongly impacted by this. And I don't think that means that food insecurity number is going to get better. It's going to get worse. The main issue is that those benefits allow people flexibility where they can go and shop where they want. The other things that we have and the other options that we have are not as equitable, and they don't allow people as much choice. And so there are solutions that are available to you, but they aren't the same. What I do want to share is that there are several options that you can take as legislators to help mitigate the impact of these. One of them is to help with the funding that we came in here and talked to you about, the $3 million we've requested. That money would go into our charitable food program to buy food from Vermont farms and distribute it through our network. There are other sources of food that we would also be able to purchase with that $3 million in order to help meet a broad need. People need not only fruit and vegetables, but they also need staples and shelf-stable food. The other piece I know you're going to discuss later is the Universal School Meals Program. This has been happening in tandem with Universal School Meals. We need to keep that program in place so that children get 2 meals a day in school. That is going to make a huge difference for families to make sure that their kids during the school year have that resource available. The other bill that you may not have seen yet is H109. It's a bill to support the Older Vermonters Nutrition Program, which includes Meals on Wheels, congregate meals, nutritional, it's like nutritionally based meals that people are given as prescriptions. There's a whole variety of things that helps to fund. Funding that bill at $3 million will help mitigate issues for many people who are going to be impacted by this SNAP change. And the other piece is something that you can do right now, and I can email it to Alora afterwards, but the Vermont Farm Bill Nutrition Coalition, which is organizations like mine, CAP agencies, Hunger Free Vermont, worked with over 400 people across the state, both community members and service providers, to create a set of recommendations that we're sending up to our Vermont federal delegation. There is a sign-on letter and a recommendation available for you to look at on Hunger Free Vermont's website. And that lays out a number of changes that would be made to the SNAP program federally that would help to expand eligibility, that would help raise payment levels. So $23 a month was not the minimum amount that people could get for their grocery help. And I will email that around later today so that you can all take a look at that and see if you'd like to sign on to that. We're going to send those recommendations next week to the delegation. And expect them to be very supportive. We're very lucky here in Vermont that our federal delegation is often very aligned with what we're doing here in the state. So I know that was a little bit quick, but I want to make sure that the other folks who came along have time to speak. And I'm happy to take some questions now or at the end, whatever you'd
Yeah,
prefer.
why don't we, I guess, let's try a couple questions. Representative Levitt.
Really quick question. In anticipation of the reduction of SNAP benefits, do you anticipate an increase of Veggie Van Go throughout the state?
That's a great question. We've actually seen an increase not only at Veggie Van Go, but at a lot of our network partners. I talked to a network partner in Brattleboro last week, and he said that when news stories about this change started coming out in January, he saw a 30 to 50% increase in food shelf utilization and in people taking more food when they came to the food shelf. And people were saying to him, like, I'm going to use the food shelf more now so I can save my SNAP benefits to use at the grocery store. Other network partners, we had a listening session yesterday with a lot of our network because they have a lot of questions about these changes. And one of the things that they shared was that a lot of the folks that they serve are coming to them and saying, what am I going to do? How can I come more often? Can I take more food with me? Or people are just doing that, even if there isn't necessarily, the allowance for that food available. So it's something that our network is really working hard to help mitigate, but we can't make up for $6 million in grocery store purchases. It's just not possible. So we are working on what that will look like for us and trying to do our best to make up for what we can.
Yeah, Dave.
You had mentioned some dollar amounts. I think it was 11 to 12 million a month. Is that Vermont or nationwide?
That's Vermont alone. Yeah.
So with the additional 6 million a month, that's like $210 million a year.
We're going to stretch my math here. I don't actually know. So I believe it's about $120 million a year for the regular program and about $78 million a year for the emergency allotment. So we're losing that $78 million.
That's a lot of money. Wow.
It is a lot of money. Yeah, it is a lot of, it'll be a change we all notice, I think.
So thank you. And I know we do have other folks. It's, so there's not an ask here other than perhaps to sign on to a letter or encourage our federal delegation to support changes. But right now, this is going to happen regardless of anything we do here in Montpelier. I think it's good for us to have a good understanding of who's impacted, how many people are impacted, and the 185% of the federal poverty level is, I believe, the same limit that's used for eligibility for school meals.
It is exactly the same limit. So.
And I, just to be clear, I want to be sure that we all understand that what the folks who are eligible for the SNAP program already are getting universal school meals through the federal. They're eligible federally.
They would be eligible.
What we're talking about is, in that other conversation, is expanding the school meal program to everybody else. So it really is a different population, I think, than the population that's going to be impacted.
It is, but I will say that there are people, it's not like a permanent status, right? People can fall in and out of this status. And so with something like universal school meals, the relationship is by making universal school meals universal, you're also helping those people who are at 186% or 160%. There is that, what we refer to as the missing middle, who are really served by universal programs, who may be eligible 1 month for something like SNAP and ineligible the next month, right? And so it really is a more overall way to capture people using that universal measure.
Representative Templeman.
Just to better understand the universal meal program, we're talking breakfast and lunch. Was the non-universal component including breakfast?
It was, right, John, is that true that before the university? Yeah, it was including breakfast.
Representative O'Brien.
Just a question about food insecurity. So if we're at 40% food insecurity in Vermont, if universal school meals went away and this maximum allotment, does that figure even jump up higher?
Well, John, that's something I try not to think about.
Yeah.
But I would expect that if those resources are taken away, that will happen. I think what we're seeing with this 40% is because a lot of the federal resources we had available during the pandemic that were really helping people who are struggling have gone away. And so if more of those resources disappear, as the SNAP emergency allotment is about to, but if the state also makes a choice to end some of those resources, then I don't see any other answer to that question than yes.
Great. Right.
I just got a comment to make. We also have to think about, as you put in your report there, that Vermont's a high cost of living state. So we're basically out of free money, the ARPA money. So the more we supplement these other programs, the higher the cost of living is going to become for Vermonters. And then you're going to have more Vermonters looking for benefits because they can't buy food.
Well, I think that's the challenge you all have in front of you, isn't it? How to use the money that you do have available. And it's our hope that you'll use that to help people who are already struggling here in the state.
Thank you.
And there's a portion of this money that's federal, not state, quite a large, it's all federal. Right.
Yeah, this is all federal money that Vermont has essentially benefited from.
Right.
It's spent at Vermont retailers, that money goes into people's pay. It really is by and large a boon to the state.
And I understand it's good for farmers too.
You're about to hear that if I leave. You'll get to hear that shortly.
Right.
All right, let's have a farmer, somebody speak for the farmers. Come on.
Yes, we will have some folks speak for the farmers.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Durfee, for having us at the State House today. I'm Joanna Doran. I live in Winooski, and I'm the local food access coordinator with NOFA Vermont. I want to try to get through my testimony quickly so that we can have an actual farmer speak and so that I'm not speaking for them. But I'm going to provide some context today about how the reduction in SNAP allotments will affect local farmers and a little bit about the programs that NOFA Vermont runs that can help soften the blow a little bit. Can you hear me okay? I have a soft voice. Okay. Yeah. All right. So at NOFA, we know that thriving organic farms and agriculturally based communities nourish people and enhance the environment. And as Carrie said, there's a lot of potential for SNAP dollars, federally funded dollars, to go back into the local agricultural community. And at NOFA, we try to support farmers and farmers markets in being able to accept SNAP and to funnel those dollars and those customers to local producers. But the playing field is not level for farmers and for farmers markets. There's a lot of barriers that stand in the way that local farmers experience in accepting SNAP that large retailers do not experience. And that really reduces the ability for lower income Vermonters to purchase food from their local farms. And these sort of structural barriers are going to be further impacted by the reduction in SNAP allotments. So the solution on the state level is to strengthen programs that make it easier and more affordable for lower income Vermonters to buy from local producers. In that vein, NOFA Vermont administers a few programs. A couple that are SNAP incentive programs. So they take, we take federally funded grants, and we basically provide SNAP recipients with extra dollars to spend on produce at farmers markets and at farm stands. And these programs are really wonderful because they encourage and bolster the ability for lower income Vermonters to support local farms with federal SNAP dollars. We saw a huge increase in SNAP spending at farms and farmers markets over the from 2019 through the pandemic with the emergency allotments of SNAP. Basically, I'll skip all my statistics, but we've seen over double the amount of SNAP dollars and this additional crop cash incentive dollars being spent at farmers markets and at local farms. With the heightened inflation and these other many logistical barriers to going to farmers markets, making it to a farm rather than going to a large box retailer store, and the reduction in SNAP benefits that we're going to see in March, this increase is likely going to sort of taper off and reduce significantly. And folks are going to have a hard choices to make where they spend their dollars in an effort to stretch them as far as they can. So in addition to that program, I also just want to let you know about another program that NOFA Vermont runs called the Farm Share Program, which offers a discount to Vermonters to purchase community-supported agriculture or CSA shares at local farms. The summer season application opened this February 1st. And in just the first 2 weeks that the application was open, we've seen more applications than we ever have before. And I think we can understand why people are showing this need for help buying food. People have literally called this program a lifesaver for them, and many comment they would not be able to afford fresh produce without it due to reduced SNAP benefits, other Social Security benefits, or very intense situations, including fleeing from domestic violence or other type situations that strap them for funds. So the Vermont legislature can help SNAP recipients and farmers in Vermont by supporting programs that make it easy and even financially wise for folks to spend their benefits at local farms. We greatly thank the legislature for allocating a one-time funding in the FY 2023 budget of $200,000 to shore up and expand our local food access programs through NOFA Vermont. And we see these funds being absolutely critical for the success of our programs this year. And that need will only increase with the reduction in SNAP allotments. And we'd love to come back later this session and tell you how those programs fare. Tell you a little bit more about that. The legislature can also support farmers by allocating $500,000 to the local purchasing incentive for schools. And as Carrie said, legislators can join us in the Vermont Farm Bill Nutrition Coalition by signing on to the recommendations we're making to negotiate for a strong 2023 Farm Bill in DC. That link will be shared with you so you can review the recommendations and support our work that will be supporting farmers and Vermonters alike. Thank you so much for listening, and I welcome any questions.
So I think you mentioned 3 different programs that NOFA Vermont administers, and then I see funding of $200,000, one-time funding this current year, and wonder previously whether there was funding from the state or how those programs are funded.
That's a good question. I don't know about any previous funding from the state in that way. I'd have to get back to you on that. The Crop Cash and Farm Stand Match programs are federally funded. They are very limited in how those funds can be spent. Specifically, funds can only be spent on fruits and vegetables. And so the state funding is allowing us to expand folks to be able to spend dollars on any SNAP eligible food at farmers markets, because we know that one's diet does not only consist of fruits and vegetables. There's also eggs, dairy, produce, meat, that also affect local farms.
Representative Levitt.
Quick question. How much money is left in that program? Basically, how quickly do I need to get the word out to my constituents if they want this? They need to, when do you anticipate the funds running out, I guess is a better way to say it.
The Farm Share Program?
Yeah.
We are already pushing the seams. We're gonna have to, we're seeking out grants. The Farm Share Program is not federally funded. It is funded through a collection of grants, philanthropy, individual donations. So
Okay.
we do what we can.
So they need to hurry up.
Okay, got it. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And is there?
One more.
Great.
What? I don't know where Joy is. Oh, she's great. Sorry, 2 more.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. My name is Ariana, and I live in Huntington, and I am a 3 Squares Vermont specialist at the Vermont Food Bank. And as you all know, 3 Squares Vermont is the program known federally as SNAP. My primary role at the food bank is to support people who are applying to SNAP through the application process because it can be very confusing and long-lasting and intimidating. And I'm also the former manager and a current board member of the Richmond Farmers Market. So I interact with the Crop Cash program that Joanna just talked about. I started managing the market in 2020 during the pandemic and shifted to my current role as a board member last week, actually. So today I'm here to share with you what I know about SNAP emergency allotments and what it will mean for Vermonters when those end in March. In my role as a specialist at the food bank, I'm screening people for eligibility every single day. And if they're likely eligible for benefits based on their gross monthly income and household size, I assist them in completing an application and I support them through the whole process of being approved for benefits. Sometimes it can take up to 2 months. When I screen someone for eligibility, if they're near the maximum eligible income limit, near that 185%, I explain to them that they may be approved for benefits, but they might be approved for a really small amount. So to give you an example, if a household of one person makes around $2,000 a month, they're only about $100 away from that 185%. And if they're approved for benefits, they'll likely be approved for a $23 amount or a $0 amount. That happens at sometimes too. But I want you all to know that when I speak with the people who are near that 185%, near the maximum allowed monthly income, they are still super stressed about where their next meal is going to come from and how they're going to feed themselves and get the types of food they need to stay healthy. They're calling our 3 Squares Vermont helpline to be screened for eligibility and for application assistance for a reason. They're financially strained. They're not able to feed themselves well. They're anxious about seeking help and they're anxious about seeking benefits. They don't want to need benefits and they don't want to need help, but they're still calling us. They're all hardworking people. They all have incomes. They're often older Vermonters, disabled or single parent households. For the past 3 years though, we've been able to encourage these households near the benefits cliff, near that 185%, to apply for benefits despite being near the maximum allowed monthly income. And that's because of the SNAP emergency allotments. Even if a household were to be officially approved for a low benefit amount of $23 a month, they still had the hope of getting that mid-month emergency allotment, which ensured that all households approved for any benefit amount would get the maximum allowed benefit. So here's an example. If a household of one person is approved for $23 a month, currently and through March of 2023, they're going to get $281 each month because of the emergency allotments. A one-person household of this sort, in this sort of situation, will be short $258 a month. And that's just a one-person household. This is come April when emergency allotments are ending. Larger households may be short even more money each month. There's a Vermont Public Story interviewing an individual who's in a situation like this, and the link to that story is, and the radio broadcast is in my written testimony. And I also included a link to a blog post that's living on the Vermont Food Bank website, and the post details 2 stories from people who are receiving emergency allotments. And Carrie will also follow up with an email with those links as well. So switching hats now, as a farmers market manager, I see SNAP dollars make it into the pockets of Vermont farmers each week at Richmond Farmers Market all summer long. As Joanna said, many farmers markets and farm stands and CSA farms are able to accept SNAP dollars. And last summer in 2022, at the Richmond Market, we saw on average $287 a week, so almost $300 of SNAP-related money coming into the market. And the total value of SNAP-related money is both SNAP dollars and then the crop cash match that Joanna was talking about. Just gonna skip my. So our market has participated in this program since 2012, so going on 11 years. And to link the importance of SNAP emergency allotments to farmers markets, Emergency allotments have put more money into the hands of Vermonters who are spending money at farmers markets. At our market in Richmond, we have seen an uptick in customers spending SNAP dollars compared to before the pandemic when emergency allotments did not exist. In 2022, comparing it to 2019, we saw a 376% increase in SNAP-related dollars coming into the market. And so I compared 2022 to 2019 because 2019 was the last year before emergency allotments came into the mix, which was in 2020. And I included a graph displaying those trends in my written testimony as well. It's pretty impactful, so I encourage you to check that out. I want you all to know that it's going to be really difficult to make up for the flexibility and stress relieving support that emergency allotments have brought to many Vermont households. And also that we may see a downturn in SNAP dollars and crop cash dollars flowing to our farmers. But there is hope. The Vermont Food Bank and our 320 network partners will be a backstop for Vermonters who are hit hard this coming April, which is the first month with no emergency allotments. Food insecurity rates may have increased due to the pandemic, but they have not receded as the pandemic has. And without these emergency allotments, the food bank and its network will be a primary food resource for thousands of low-income Vermonters. So you can support the food bank by prioritizing our appropriations request of $3 million in base funding. And to support our farmers through this economic shift and lack of emergency allotment SNAP dollars, you can continue to support NOFA Vermont's food access programs with state funding like the 2023 budget allocation of $200,000 for their food access programs. And federally, as Carrie shared before, there are recommendations that the Vermont Farm Bill Nutrition Coalition just released, and you can sign on to support those recommendations. So our federal delegation is in the best place possible to negotiate for a strong farm bill in 2023. Thank you all for listening to my story and my perspectives, and thank you for all the work you do to support Vermont agriculture and forestry and food resiliency.
Thank you, Ariana.
Thank you.
I just had some thoughts about leveraging. Do we have a figure for how much SNAP benefits are used at farmers markets or crop cash or whatever it's called? Do we know the total?
Like statewide?
Yeah.
Total?
Joanna may have that.
So this, let's see, right now, we're in the sort of 2022 to winter 2023 season. We're on track to exceed $120,000 in crop cash only, and then $146 plus dollars in SNAP benefits.
146,000.
Right.
Yes.
No, I just wondered if there was a way that Vermont, say, could match SNAP dollars spent at farmers markets would be great. So you essentially.
Yes, that would be an enhancement to crop cash.
Yeah, and good for farmers too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The other leverage I thought it was, does the food bank have access to buying USDA commodity foods like they do in schools?
We receive USDA commodity foods through the federal TFAP program. Yes.
Okay, so how does that work?
That is a much longer conversation.
Okay.
Essentially, the Vermont State Agency of Education is the administrative arm of USDA in the state for that program. They have ceded administration to us. We work with about 80 to 90 network partners at any given time who distribute that food. That food is a little different because people do have to sign an affidavit of income to receive that food, but the income eligibility for that is 300% of the federal poverty level, so there's more people eligible to receive those foods. Usually those are shelf stable or frozen foods, so it's not quite the same, but those are foods that really fill the shelves at many of our network partners across the state.
So if I go to a food shelf or a Vermont food bank place where there's food, I can have access.
Not all of them, but many of them. Yes, you can access USDA commodity food.
And it's not all inedible.
It's not all edible. No, actually, it's lovely. They've repackaged it all to look like grocery store food.
Oh.
So it really is a seamless experience to receive that food, except for that affidavit.
Right. Is there any way to get more of that or get more of it to
The
Vermont?
federal government has also cut that program. So there is less food available through that program now than there has been in the recent past. It's about 40% lower this year than last year.
There are no programs where if a state wanted to match, say, what the federal government add-in funding?
I don't know if the state could, but that's a good question. I would have to do some research to find out.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Ariana.
Thank you, that was a great perspective.
So, our next witness is waiting for our next segment. I know we got started about 5 minutes late. So if there's anything else that you wanted to say just to wrap up?
We do have Joy LaFoulier here from Footbrook Farm, who was gonna say a few words, if that's okay. And
Sure, yeah, come on up. Just, yeah, please let us know who you are at least and what we should know.
And I'm gonna step out to head to Senate Agriculture. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name's Joey LaHoolier. My husband and I, thank you for having me here today and listening. My husband and I own Footbrook Farm in Johnson, Vermont. We grow we have about 30 acres in production. We wholesale through Deep Root. We sell to local co-ops all over the state. We have our prize possession is our big farm stand on site at our farm. It is open from June to November, and it is fully staffed, which has given us a lot of ability to be able to offer programs out to the Vermonters that need it. So I've come to these committees before to testify, and I've always had a very specific thing that I wanted to ask for, and I do not have that today. But I just want you to get an idea of what these programs have meant for our farm, and to try to keep those going as much as you can. So we accept EBT. So anybody can come in with their EBT card and use it to buy pretty much anything that's in the farm stand. I also accept the farm stand match program that Joanna had talked about, and that has been really amazing. So folks can come in with their EBT card, and if they show me their card, they can get half off of their fruit and vegetables. And if you can see the happiness that brings them is pretty substantial. The other thing that it also does that I want to talk about is we as a farm do as much as we can on our own, whether it be, to donate to the food shelf, or somebody comes in and their EBT card isn't working that day, they're leaving with that food. So we're always going to do whatever we can for our Vermonters to take that food home. Farmers don't grow food. They want food to the people, no matter how it gets there. I have a pretty robust tourist traffic that comes through that helps keep us sustainable. But being able to bring in our local community that are low income has been a super struggle since we opened our doors 10 years ago. We've been in business for 30, but the farm stand is in its 10th year this year. And I've always thought, how do I bring these people in so that they can see, even though there are $4 a pound tomatoes, I have $2 a pound or $1 a pound tomatoes that maybe don't look as good that they can buy that still taste wonderful. So being able to accept these programs brings those people to my place, but then they often come back knowing that there's going to be food that they can buy, even if they don't have those benefits. But I need a way to get them in the door. So whatever you can do to make that happen, I would appreciate it.
Great. Very quick questions. I see 3 hands here. So if there are questions that you think we need to ask now, I will say, let's go ahead and ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to say our next witness has a 20-minute hard stop, and we've already used up 5 of those minutes. So through no fault of anybody's here, we had a tech issue that got us started, but that's just the way life is. So Representative Levitt.
I was just going to say real quickly, one way that helps our farmers is they donate to the food shelf. And that's how, so the people, that could be a way to get people to come to your farm stand, is just they get to know you and then they come. And that helps break down the barrier of embarrassment of needing something money.
Definitely, and we work with our food shelf in
Right.
Johnson.
Good.
Yeah.
Representative Lipsky.
Quickly, you're abutting Laraway School or nearly. Do you do much farm to school?
As much as we can. I think it's usually directed through Deep Root. Deep Root purchases or different organizations go through Deep Root to buy bulk carrots, potatoes, rutabagas, whatever it is. But I've worked directly with our own elementary school, and we're happy to any way that we can. A lot of times it's logistics, it's trucking, it's who's bringing it. But we're very willing to do anything we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative O'Brien.
I just wondered if I'm using EBT at your farm stand and get half price where are you getting paid with the rest of that?
At NOFA.
No one's paying for it?
Literally sends me will send me that check every month, and it is wildly popular. If I had that, I could use, if we could double the amount of funding, I could get more people in to use that program.
And that, and NOFA is being funded by the federal government. That was the program you mentioned earlier, right? Crop Cash or Farm Stand.
It's the same grant for those two.
Yeah, okay, good. Joey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry to be